I was 11 years old, and my identical twin sister, Mickey, and I were running for our lives. Imagine winter in a suburb of Montreal, Canada. We were cutting through the French school on our way home from a more immigrant English and French Japanese school down the street. And this time, this gang of 10 French kids threw snowballs at Mickey and me. And for the first time, we stood up to them. We threw snowballs back. What ensued was the scariest physical altercation I had ever been a part of. We were circled by these 10 scary French kids surrounding us. And all of a sudden, after this hair pulling and scratching and hitting, Mickey screams, "Rada, we're outnumbered 10-2. Let's burn rubber." She literally said those words, "Let's burn rubber." And we ran home as fast as our little legs would carry us, with these 10 scary French kids running after us. We run up the stairs, panting frantically, pounding the doorbells. My sweet Japanese mother opens the door and sees this chaos in front of her and screams, "What is happening here?" as Mickey and I cowered behind her. And then the French kids start shouting racial slurs at my mom, which I'd never heard before. And we ran inside the house as she called 911 and waited for the cops to come. They did, and they patrolled our neighborhood for the next 2 weeks after that. We were safe at home, or were we? Our dad came home an hour later, and we never knew what kind of dad we were going to get. My dad is from India, and as an aside, Indians rarely believe in therapy, at least in my dad's generation. So I have a lot more compassion for him now. Some days we'd be so happy, and the best dad, bringing us candy and giving us huge hugs with his booming laughter. And other days he would come home stressed from work and take it out on us if we didn't bust the plates or set the table correctly after dinner. This day he was stressed and yelled at us and screamed. He didn't care that we had just lived this very scary experience. I remember after he flicked me and Mickey as hard as he could in the nose, we crumpled to the floor, hoping he would stop screaming and for the pain in our face to go away. All this to say, there were many moments in my childhood where I felt lonely, unsafe in my body, and misunderstood by the world, by my father, by being a half Japanese, half Indian girl living in French Canada. Sometimes I think this is how I got into the world of community building. But as a good student and athlete who seemed to have it all together, I had a hard time expressing these feelings. I was too ashamed to share about my many moments of loneliness and feeling misunderstood at home. Even to my twin sister. The shame is real, especially in high-performing Asian households. Show of hands, have you ever felt lonely and misunderstood by the world? Right? Look around the room. There's this quiet shame in it for all of us, yet it is a truly universal experience. I know my mom and my dad also felt lonely too in many moments of their lives, leaving their families across the ocean to start a new life in America. And what do you do when nowhere is safe? You realize that no one is going to protect you but you. So you look after yourself, you protect yourself no matter what the cost. This mentality of going at it alone, perpetuated by capital markets, education systems, healthcare systems, governments, technology, religion, and a culture of materialism, and the news media, has led to keeping us in a trance of toxic individualism. So what is toxic individualism? It's about living a self-centered life with total disregard for what's good for the greater community. It's self-centeredness, selfishness, and a lack of concern for others and the common good. Toxic individualism is about the pursuit of personal goals and self-interests at the expense of what's better for your community's well-being, and where competition and isolation take over. When we just focus on the me and not the we, or as Dr. Dan Siegel so beautifully says, the mui, a beautiful integration of the me and the we, the result is what we're seeing today. And yes, there is merit to going against the grain and taking the uncharted path and not just being sheep following the herd. We can't ignore our egoic human nature and our drive to succeed and connect with ourself and identity. But it's when we do it at the expense of the greater whole that we end up in this crisis and ultimately the demise of our civilization. And let's be real, civilization is about creating a world we all want to live in. Civilization is built on togetherness. So it's no wonder that 1 in 4 Americans have 0 friends to confide in, and this number has tripled in the last 30 years. And turns out having poor social connections is as harmful to your physical health as being an alcoholic, and twice as harmful as smoking cigarettes. Our immune system collapses, our creativity and sense of purpose mutes, our productivity declines, and our lifespan decreases by an order of magnitude. While loneliness can be seen and feels as painful as having a broken bone, the shame of sharing our loneliness with others carries even more pain. Is this talk fun or what? I promise I'm going to turn this around. The thing about loneliness is that it travels across socioeconomic, racial, political, and every community in between. It can imprison anyone. I want to share this graphic that I created to display this concept, that no one is immune to this experience. There are many archetypes of individuals impacted by toxic individualism. As you can see, these are all individuals on their own mountaintops, alone. There's the overworked human, there's the pauper that's been forgotten by the world, but then there's the billionaire that everyone wants something from, but they don't feel connected either. There's a single overworked mom, there's the sick, the elder, the pubescent hormonal teen, there's the proud human who's too proud to share about their loneliness, the professional, the intellectual, the anxious and depressed, Lady Gaga, she talks about this, and the many celebrities that are imprisoned by their fame, people who watch Fox News, people who watch MSNBC, it's everyone, guys, people addicted to technology and social metrics, people who live in fear state. This is what loneliness looks like in this country. The New York Times did an in-depth feature on this experience of loneliness by decades of our life that really, really touched me. I want to share that today, a few minutes of it.
I feel loneliness in my chest.
Just a heavy weight on your back.
My career has isolated me.
I don't have a partner. I don't have kids.
Right after I got married, and people just fell away.
As a single parent,
When I retired.
My greatest fear is dying alone.
It's a doozy loneliness. It's a bad one.
The feelings of loneliness and isolation that I feel stem from losing my dad to suicide at 12 years old.
I feel like I've always felt lonely. What did I do to run everybody else away? I feel like something that makes people scatter.
I feel like if I don't try to be successful, I'll always regret not having tried. My loneliness ends up kind of being my punishment.
Does everybody feel like this? There must be something wrong with me.
You're surrounded by people, but yet you're still feeling like you're not even around anybody.
I'm at this wedding and, kind of on reflex, I open up my phone, I pull up a dating app and I start swiping. And then I look around and there's just so many people around me laughing and having a good time, just being loving with each other. Yeah, it was a moment of feeling deep loneliness.
You might.
And it goes on and on all the way to your 80s and 90s. It's a video I highly recommend watching. It's really moving. So how do we get here? The way our world is currently set up is pushing us towards toxic individualism. Capitalism wants us to be lonely, so we buy more stuff and perpetuate our culture of materialism. Governments, through policies and regulations, pull us apart and polarize us. Healthcare systems that treat us as disposable. There's education systems that pushes kids into testing and competition. And the news media supporting divisiveness. These institutions are feeding our toxic individualism. Can we be more discerning about what we're and where we're putting our attention? And if you look at every social issue we face as a human species, it all ladders down to I don't belong, therefore I will, ... Abuse alcohol and opioids, bring a gun to school, overeat, degrade the planet, cut my body, cut myself off from the world, abuse technology. These things all make the world a scary place and make us feel anxious and depressed. P.S. The #1 cause of anxiety and depression is, can you guess? Loneliness. So what should we be doing instead? Here comes the fun stuff. Well, first off, we need to change the dream of the modern world, moving away from the trance of toxic individualism to a culture of true belonging. Let's first start by redefining belonging. In my book, Belong, which I published in 2018, I defined belonging as a feeling of deep relatedness and acceptance, a feeling of I'd rather be here than anywhere else. Belonging is the opposite of loneliness. It's a feeling of, I'm home, and I can exhale here and be fully myself with no judgment or insecurity. Belonging is about the desire to participate in and making your community better. It's about offering your unique gifts to others. You can't belong if you only take. This definition is still true. However, in the 6 years since I wrote my book, things have gotten a lot worse. It seems like every other week, a news outlet is writing about loneliness. The Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, says we are in the middle of an epidemic of loneliness and isolation. New York State just appointed Dr. Ruth Westheimer, I love her so much, the country's first loneliness ambassador at 95 years old. She's incredible. She says that the first most important piece of the puzzle is to admit that we're lonely, right? The shame and pride of it stops us, and it's time that we normalize it. So while everything I said before remains true, I wanted to add to it today. Today, I want to introduce a brand new concept. I want to define loneliness and belonging through a whole new frame. With Daybreaker, our global dance and community movement, I've spent the last decade traveling the world, researching, collaborating with, and building communities in every continent. From the Maasai tribes in Africa, to the indigenous people of the Amazon, to club scenes from Tokyo to Paris to New York City, to studying with the historians and spiritual teachers of Egypt, to working with scientists who spend winters alone in Antarctica. I've met with hundreds of community architects across the world and sought to understand belonging from a truly universal perspective. What has emerged from my 11 years of research is a definition of belonging that expands beyond our relational connection to one another. While humans are built for togetherness and cannot survive or thrive without connection or meaningful relationships, and I can talk for hours on community architecture and experience design, this is my wheelhouse. But my new definition, after studying the energetics of belonging, include deepening our relationship to ourselves through 4 directions that we've cut off in just the last half century. This revelation was such an aha moment for me. When we connect to these 4 directions, we will truly never feel lonely. I call this the compass of belonging. The north, the south, the east, and the west, orienting us towards our deepest experience of belonging. Our physical bodies being the compass. Turn to the compass of belonging in any moment of loneliness, and it will show you the way. I really feel certain of that. We have cut off these 4 directions within ourselves, and if we reconnect to each of these directions, not only will we feel a deep sense of belonging within ourselves, we will begin to relate to each other and to the world around us in completely new and meaningful ways. Our confidence, our magnetism, our sparkle, and our joy will all come alive, and we will actually save the planet. I do want to share that it's important to make a clear distinction between loneliness and being alone. Loneliness is painful, it's separation, it's hard. Being alone with the right intention and mindset is actually all one. Alone, all one, get it? Right? There's a peacefulness and magic to solitude, especially if you connect to these 4 directions. This concept serves and supports those who self-identify also as introverts and extroverts, though I can talk about that for hours too. Okay, let's get into it. Can everyone point to the north? Beautiful. This is our spirit. The north is a connection to the spiritual realm. You can put your arms down now. The North is a connection to the spiritual realm, a realm greater than or outside the human experience. To be clear, this can be spiritual but non-religious, which more and more people are identifying with. The institution of church is currently losing 10% of its members year over year over year. That said, our spiritual health is deeply suffering with the decline of religion and faith-based communities, and this cutting off of the North and spirit makes us feel like we're on an island with no support from other planes. By the way, when our brain relaxes into divine space, did you know that our cortisol levels reduce drastically? That this trust falling to a spiritual realm tells our brain that we're okay, that we are held and known. Brain scans taken during or immediately after an enlightenment experience show a decrease in activity in the parietal lobe. This section of the brain is associated with a loss of the sense of self and a blurring of lines between the self and the rest of the world. When we feel connected to the spiritual realms, all of a sudden we don't feel lonely. We don't feel like we need to shoulder the burden of life alone. Our sense of individualism goes away, and we become one with the universe. We become love. This deep spiritual sense of belonging is why religion has survived and thrived for thousands of years. Its demise has more to do with the controlling institutions of the church rather than the individual's relationship to God or spirit. I do believe there's a place for spiritual practices, turning churches into places we are proud and excited to go to be together and touch these spiritual realms. Some of the more potent soul practices that support our spiritual health include dance, which obviously is my favorite, meditation, breathwork, yoga, prayer, rituals, ceremony, art, poetry, and sex. Each of these practices, if you do them regularly, will support your spiritual health. When we design our Daybreaker experiences around the world, we think about how to architect the dance experience to bring our community closer together, to each other, and to their spiritual selves. The selves that are judgment-free. Our MC always says, stop judging yourself and let go. That trust fall into the dance floor, into the superorganism, a term coined for a group of humans that when physically together, like at a concert or festival, are smarter, more immune, and more creative. Here's an example of a superorganism video. I'm sure some of you see yourselves. I think Kevin sees himself in the video. Hi, Kevin. Freeform movement to music can really take you to spiritual realms and is one of the most potent somatic soul practices. It is and has been an ancient healing and celebratory technology that we've honed over thousands of years. And yet today, we've mostly seen it as a drunken wedding or an after-hours experience. If used correctly, dance can deepen your spiritual practice and contribute to your health and happiness in real and meaningful ways. It's the main reason I've dedicated the last 11 years of my life to Daybreaker and creating a sober dance environment to return to yourself and to find your spiritual practice and not escape yourselves with drugs and alcohol. Thank you. And it is something that we're studying right now, working with UC Berkeley and the Greater Good Science Center in California and our new nonprofit Belong Center, where we are literally studying the power of collective dance for the first time. What happens to our brains when we move together, when we experience joy together, when we feel collective awe together. This study will come out in 2026 and starts this spring. Our dream is for doctors to begin prescribing collective dance as an antidote to loneliness, isolation, depression, and anxiety. Currently, doctors are prescribing things like meditation, which is something that you do by yourself. I have a good feeling about this study. Do you? Let's go. Here are some photos of Daybreaker. You can see that the collective effervescence one feels being together, sober, and moving in unison, creating a superorganism that immediately takes you away from toxic individualism into a state of oneness and togetherness. Dance is a practice. For many, it's uncomfortable, But if you break through and see it as a movement meditation, the medicine and spiritual connection is always there. I really believe dance is not just a party. It still takes my breath away after 11 years. I do believe if we can reconnect with our soul practice and energize our spiritual health in ways that can look like a dance party and not a sobering, are you okay experience that so much of this loneliness space is all about, right? Ending loneliness will not only happen, but we'll have fun in the process. Depth and play, depth and play. The intersection of depth and play is where the magic lies in soul-opening experiences. And this is just one direction. And we could spend hours discussing each direction. And by the way, that's me at the front right there. Whoa. I went from being lonely to this whole crew. It's so fun. All right, so let's move on to the next direction, the compass of belonging. The south, the earth. Can everyone point down to the earth below your feet and just take a moment to ground your feet in the earth and just feel the juiciness of the roots from under your feet pouring into the core of the planet? Feel that for a second. We have forgotten that we humans are literally expressions of the earth. Our skin, our organs, our bones, all materials made from the earth. Yet, the way we talk about the earth is through the lens of logistics. What is our carbon footprint? How much are we recycling? What are the new regeneration opportunities? How do we stop degrading our oceans and soil, et cetera? While that is important, what's missing from most of these conversations is our energetic connection to the planet, the soul of Mother Earth. We are speaking in masculine numbers rather than the reverence and nurturing of a beloved family member, as if she is something separate, apart from us. It's why when I shared in my opening, my dad yelled at me and I crouched down instinctively. That child in me knew that the earth was there to protect me. I dropped to the earth. Children know. Our disconnect from the planet as an energy body has made us feel deeply lonely. It's why I'm most inspired to action around the planet after meeting the indigenous tribes of the Amazon, whose spiritual relationship and deep energetic and soul connection to the planet is undeniable for thousands of years and hundreds of generations. They deeply understand our sense of belonging is tied to her, our Mother Earth. Over New Year's a few years ago, a dear sister and I were in the ocean in Nosara, Costa Rica, one of the blue zones, hugging each other as we rang in the new year. The water created this beautiful, slippery surface with our skin touching, and when a wave crashed over us, instead of resisting it, we just held each other and let our bodies go and let the earth and the ocean move us in this beautiful, poetic dance. I'll never forget the feeling of dancing with the ocean. It felt like it was the three of us connecting with the earth and each other. It was mystical. And yes, I was sober. Another way to connect with the earth is through shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, coined and designed in ancient Japan. Imagine walking aimlessly under a canopy of trees with your hands clasped loosely behind your back, smelling the forest around you with deep, beautiful inhales. My Japanese mother shared about this practice of forest bathing that lowers your blood pressure, cortisol levels, and I became a guide during COVID for our Daybreaker community stuck at home. Take a look here. These places will be special to you, and your connection to them will be strong. Just close your eyes as you bathe your five senses in nature, and just breathe. And allow a little smile to crinkle the sides of your mouth upward, and just take it in. As you walk through nature, allow your hands to graze over the leaves, the flowers, the beautiful tapestry of nature, as you delicately and slowly invite them into your sensorial space. Okay, before you fall asleep. Even in big cities, there are parks and botanical gardens everywhere to take advantage of. There's so much more in the Southern Compass to explore, but let's keep going. Moving on to the West in the compass of belonging. This is behind you. Can everyone point behind you? Beautiful. This direction, imagine your lineage. This direction is your lineage, your ancestors, whether by birth or chosen. Let's take a moment to close our eyes and connect to our lineage. I want you to imagine your parents behind you and their parents behind them and their parents behind them. Imagine this pyramid of people behind you. 1 is you, 2, your parents loving you. Behind them, 4 of your grandparents loving them and you. 8 grandparents until you keep doubling and doubling. 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, still doubling, 512, 1,024, until in just 10 generations, you hit 2,064 parents behind you. 2,064 people that it took to create the miracle of you in this moment. No matter what your experience, 2,064 humans existed to get to you here, to this very moment today. You are here for a reason. This is your lineage. Take a moment to open your eyes. It's wild to think about our lineage in this way. In literally just 10 generations, it's 2,000 people that it took to get to you. It's wild. I remember when I first came to America from Canada to go to college, in my freshman dorm, I asked the other Asian girl across the hall where her family was from. And she replied, Wisconsin. To which I replied, but where are your parents from? And almost annoyed, she said, well, they're from China, but I'm American and from Wisconsin. That was the melting pot in perfect action. This idea that if you did not assimilate to the American ways, you would be left out or ostracized or held back. In Canada, the opposite was true. We call Canada a mosaic of cultures versus a melting pot. A mosaic being a tapestry of many cultures coming together, where every kid I knew growing up went to their family language school over the weekends. My sisters and I went to Japanese school every Saturday and Hindi school every Sunday. Mind you, my parents tricked us into believing every single kid had 7 days of school. But my other friends went to Greek school, Chinese school, Hebrew school, Italian school every Saturday for our whole lives. And there was a deep pride in sharing where you were from. That lack of pride contributes to our sense of loneliness, loss of identity, and emotional well-being. Again, we're on our little island with no posse, no tribe to support us. When individuals feel disconnected from their ancestors, it contributes to feelings of loneliness and a sense of being adrift or rootless. Part of the problem is people often make the mistake of feeling like they need to reject everything they grew up with if they have an issue with any part of it. So many of us in this room are rebels, but lineage can often offer a deep feeling of belonging to each of us. There are parts of my Japanese samurai lineage, I love saying that, that were brutal and filled with violence that I don't want to bring to my daughter's generation. But instead of rejecting my entire Japanese lineage, I want to carry forward the samurai discipline, loyalty, camaraderie, sacrifice, and so many other pieces of that lineage. We get the opportunity to heal this trauma in this life by choosing what rituals and traditions to carry forward. I really believe we're each here to upgrade our consciousness for our lineage and future generations to come. And by the way, from a scientific perspective, our DNA is neuroplastic, which means nurture can heal nature. Going into the Amazon rainforest and living with the Achuar and Sapara tribes, who for thousands of years have carried the exact same traditions and rituals of reverence to the planet, proved to me that cultures that are deeply connected to their lineage and rituals are literally never, ever lonely. There is no word for loneliness in the Achuar and Sapara tribal cultures. Isn't that wild? Their connection to the planet is so deep, they know they're never alone. There also wasn't a word for self in the African and indigenous cultures. The word self is actually a very recent definition. I'm currently creating an altar at my house with totems, photos, fabrics, candles, and stones from all parts of my daughter's lineage so that she can connect more deeply with our ancestors. We started chanting a Buddhist chant together every day too, to connect to spirit. So now we have the north, our connection to the spiritual realm. We have the south, our energetic connection to the planet. We have the west, our lineage, and for our final direction, the east. The east in the compass of belonging. The east represents service, how we show up in the spaces we inhabit, and the value we bring to the humans around us. When we are in service and creating a value for others through our service, we are never alone. I'll share a quick story. Every year for the last 7 years, during Christmas, my family goes caroling at my parents' retirement community in Florida. Imagine a Japanese, Indian, and Jewish motley crew singing "Joy to the World, the Lord has come." It really is a sight to see. This past Christmas, something amazing happened. Typically when we do these things like this, people smile and receive us and thank us, and then we go on to the next house. But this time when we rang the doorbell, a family of 4 opened the door and with guitar in hand started singing back to us, "We wish you a Merry Christmas." We couldn't believe it. And then they joined us for the rest of the caroling adventure. It was like this Pied Piper moment. I want to share the video my sister actually put together.
All right, so what are we working on for the Christmas caroling today?
We're moving into rehearsals right now. We're trying to make sure that we don't have any cultural appropriation this year in our holiday.
I feel like for me, as a Jew, it's all cultural appropriation. So I actually can't say.
Well, we're half Japanese, half Indian, and Buddhist, Hindu singing Christmas carols, and so are my parents. So
yeah,
what do we?
also do like behind the tree again.
Okay, yeah, we're behind the tree rehearsal. New Year.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Feliz Navidad. All right, first victim. Oh, this guy.
I'm not sure
I'm in my wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Anyway, if I knew I'd be sharing this video, I probably would have not worn pajamas. Scientific research shows that being in service can have quite a few positive effects on individual well-being, including increased happiness, reduced stress, improved physical health, enhanced life satisfaction, positive social connections, and a greater sense of gratitude. My father, being from India, talks a lot about seva as our sense of duty to our community. He would say, "Radha, it is our duty to serve our community." Seva means selfless service to others and is highly valued in Hinduism. Value creation often takes the form of selfless service in the community, acts of charity, and philanthropy. It's why when wealthy Americans go to India to live in an ashram, they are tasked with cleaning bathrooms, kitchen duty, and other humbling services to learn how to get out of their egoic selves into seva, or selfless service. In every Hindu and Buddhist chant, you're never praying or chanting just for you, but you're always chanting for your community too. Back to my Japanese mom, in Buddhism, the concept of Ichinen Sansen can be understood as the continuous process of creating value or fostering positive change in oneself or the world. Ichinen Sansen literally translates to 3,000 options in any one moment, that you have thousands of options to choose from. Let's close our eyes for one more moment. And I want you to imagine you're walking down the street at South by Southwest today, and you see someone in need. Will you ignore them? Will you acknowledge them? Will you support them? Will you share kind words? In that moment, you have 3,000 options. Which of the 3,000 ways will you choose? And how will it serve you and your community members in a generative way? You can open your eyes. I want you to think as you leave here today, how can I add value to every room I'm in? It's incredibly energizing to think that way. Every single one of us has unique gifts, and how can we share ours with the world? Whose day can you make today? Can you plant flowers in the empty pot in front of the house of your neighbor who's raising her grandchildren alone? Can you smile kindly at the woman holding a screaming baby on the plane? That's a message to myself, by the way. Can you scatter birdseed in your yard every time it snows? Sometimes the smallest things make the biggest difference. Would you believe that 80%, almost 90% of Americans don't volunteer 1 single hour in this country each year? I'm gonna say that again. Almost 90% of Americans don't volunteer even 1 single hour each year. I'm not gonna embarrass you and ask you to raise your hand if you're one of those people, but I just want you to ask yourself, how can we serve our communities more meaningfully? All this to say, there are so many ways to connect to our service, to give back to our communities in small and big ways, and to remember that when you walk into a room and are not waiting to be served or impressed by the host, but rather are an active contributor to making it better for yourself and everyone, you will not only feel a deep sense of belonging to yourself, but you'll have friends for life. People want to hang out with people who add value to a space. All right, who remembers the 4 directions? What's the north? What's the south? What's the west? What's the east? Guys, great job. This new definition for belonging, I hope and I know, will fortify ourselves in ways that will give us the strength to solve the biggest issues of our time. A day in which you've tapped into these 4 directions in the compass of belonging is a well-lived day. Not only will you feel connected, it will change your relationship with everyone around you. You will become a true magnet for good humans wanting to warm themselves up to your vibe fire. You'll also be a much happier human overall when you meet the spirit, the earth, your ancestors, and connect with your service in whole new and exhilarating ways. And what I would give to the 11-year-old me all those years ago, and my sisters, is this compass as a reminder that if you follow these directions, you'll always belong. You'll never be lonely. And I'm excited to pass this compass on to all of you and to my daughter Soleil. It will resource us in all the ways we need to save humanity and the planet. And I want to just end with Soleil dancing to spirit and the earth. She's connecting to spirit and the planet here. Thank you. And if you, I want to somatically. Thank you. Now, just before we end, just given that we're in a beautiful, juicy community, I want to somatically remember these 4 directions. Can anyone who's able stand up? Okay, if you're able to only. All right, let's inhale, arms up, connecting to the sky, connecting to spirit, beautiful. Let's fold over, bending, touching our toes. We've sat for an hour, so feeling the earth, beautiful. And now let's stand up straight and turn to your left, putting both of your hands on the shoulders of the person next to you, and move your thumbs in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction. This is called a massage train, where you get to receive from your ancestors behind you and serve the person with love in front of you. Now come back, just take a moment, maybe do a karate chop, beautiful karate chop. Nice, awesome. Now let's come back forward, and let's take a collective juicy inhale in, and an inhale out. Let's put this compass in our pockets. It is yours to take, a frame to live by every moment of every day. I believe in us. We got this. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think we have time for about 10 minutes of Q&A. And then, and also tomorrow we have Daybreaker, tomorrow morning, 9 to noon, here in Austin at In Cahoots. If you go to daybreaker.com/ATX, you can join us. I think it might be sold out, but if you can make it, it's not so, okay, I think there's a couple tickets left. Yeah, great. There'll be like 600 people there dancing at sunrise together, substance-free. But we've got a couple of minutes for Q&A if you have any questions. Great, okay, great. There's mics right here. Michael Turner and...
I don't think I need a mic.
Okay.
In the beginning of your book, you talked about the moment where you decided to change things and start your journey to belonging. If you would, it's such a great story. I would love for you to share it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was, I looked myself in the mirror at 30 years old and I realized that I didn't belong, that my sister and I were throwing a birthday party that night, and everyone that was coming, it was just not like the juiciest community that we wanted to deepen with. It was friends that talked badly about each other, that competed with us, and it was not the most safe community. And so I think that moment, I was like, wow, where are my people at? I'm 30, I spent all my 20s sleepwalking and prioritizing my professional career and romantic, relationships over friendships as a primary. And then when I changed my prioritization, that totally changed my life. But it was really that moment at 30 where I had this moment of like, wow, I woke up and I don't feel lonely. I don't feel belonging, and I wanted to really do something about that. Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm John. Nice to meet you.
Hi, John.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
So I have a more practical question.
Sure.
So I lead a fairly large organization in the healthcare space, and one of my observations is that the technology that we're all tied to, that was sort of designed and envisioned to bring us all together, actually separates us more, right?
Absolutely.
If you think about it.
Of course.
And it actually creates environments of loneliness. That interview with that gentleman who was sitting at a wedding flipping through his phone on a dating site, I really felt bad for him, because I'm like, my God, you could have put that phone down and just started dancing with everybody else. What is your perspective on balancing technology with belonging and loneliness, and how do we, in your opinion, manage through that activity? Because this is insidious, these phones.
Totally.
I'd love to get your perspective on that.
The way I think about it, it's like, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, So this concept, right? So technology was not created to separate us. When Facebook was created, it was really created to connect us. It was to connect, students in schools together. And so I think the issue happens when big business and community are sort of tied to the same sort of net goals. And so, like religion, for example, there's religion to support our spiritual connection to a higher spirit. It was a deeply connecting space of belonging until the institutions of religion took over. So what I would say is that, we're still, I would say 25 years into technology. I would say in about 10 years, we're going to look at technology like we look at cigarettes. I really believe that time is coming where there's going to be a lot more of this sort of education in place, where we're going to really recognize, and we're going to be taught this in school. There's going to be a lot of Surgeon General's warnings, like on cigarettes, sort of smoking, but no one smokes anymore. And so I really believe that there's going to be this balance, kind of this pendulum swinging back towards technology as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
No, go ahead.
I like your definition of soul-opening experiences, like the intersection of depth and play. I'm wondering what other elements of community design you discovered in this 10 years doing Daybreaker.
Yeah, so much. That's a whole entire talk too. But I would say that when I think of depth and play, I think of the lens of the brain and the body. Right? So, there's a lot of things, right? So depth and play meaning if it's just deep and it's a spiritual experience without the fun and the dance and the music, then after a while, doing all this personal development work becomes exhausting. If it's just a party and you're just unsing, at the next festival without the depth, you're also then lonely or kind of you feel rootless So when you think about any experience that we create, so for Daybreaker, for example, when I think of depth and play, it really is how do we marry our spiritual connection to ourselves, right? How do we get people to open up to their self-expression, to open up to the spiritual realm, while also making it sort of feel like a party, feel playful. I think of it also through the lens of dose. Do you know about dose? Okay, so I read about this quite extensively in my book, but dose is a term that I coined for your 4 happy neurochemicals. You can dose yourself on your own neurochemistry. So dose stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, which I couldn't believe spells the word dose. You can literally dose yourself. No one's ever put that together. I was like, what? But you can literally dose yourself on your own natural high, just by being really intentional about every element of the experience. So the dopamine we would get by playing music, by waking up early, the pleasure reward of coming to an event that starts at 6 a.m., that's a dopamine rush. The oxytocin you get by the hugging committee, by moments of twirling, the MC, inviting you to twirl your dance partner around. The serotonin being you're in daylight, right? Serotonin you get through being in sunlight. You also get through good food. We curate amazing food and beverage at our events. You also get serotonin from feeling like you're part of something bigger than you, that spirit space. And then the endorphins you get from moving your body, that runner's high, sex, like all that stuff. And so if you can actually design, and we really kind of reverse engineered the most high impact experiences through the lens of our brains. And if we weren't thinking about experience design through the lens of how many tickets I can sell, but instead through the lens of how can I release these 4 happy neurochemicals, you'll get people for life. We barely spend money on marketing. We're not investor backed. We've been around for 11 years. And I really believe that intentionality around those neurochemicals and depth and play and entry and exit rituals, I have a whole method called the crawl method as well for community architecture and experience design. But it really is kind of science and spirit coming together. Does that help? Beautiful.
Hi, my name is Iman. Iman in Arabic means faith. So I really, what you just said about the sort of the north compass to spirit just holds so deeply to me. I have so many questions, but I'm going to narrow it down to 2 questions. One is, I'm curious to know about your experiences or in your journey around the world. You mentioned that you went to Egypt, mentioned that you went to some other places, and I noticed that a lot of statistics came from the US, and I'm just wondering, is that just purely because the data is not available in other parts of the world, or is this more of an American problem? And what can we learn from some of the other cultures, places like Egypt or other countries that perhaps from your experience that you can share with us? And then my second question is, I guess, what is the future of belonging and loneliness? Like, I'd love to think that things are going to get better, but, is there hope for belonging? Is there hope for loneliness?
Yeah, so thank you, beautiful. So let me start with the second question, and I'll go back to the first. I think, again, the problem with our world is that we are so outwardly focused. Certainly, I've been as a community builder as well. And there's so many pieces, again, to this as well to tackle this problem. But I would say that step 1 is this compass of belonging. I think that we have, again, forgotten all of these different directions, which is why if every single person in the world connected to spirit, to the planet, to their ancestors, and to service, we would all walk around with a completely different chemistry, right? I think about the chemistry of loneliness, and it really comes from this me-centric world that we've been pushed to by all these forces, capitalism, technology, et cetera, et cetera. So I think step 1 is really looking inward and working on these practices, these soul practices, these earth practices, and the compass of belonging. And then it's really also about setting up the cities. How are cities set up so that there's more connected experiences? We're working on Belong Center, our nonprofit, and loneliness. Right now, we just announced it, and we're launching a yellow bench program all around the country and the world, the refugee camps. We're going to be putting these circular Belong benches. If you want to sponsor it for your city, we'd love to invite you to invite our benches in your city. But these circular yellow benches that we're going to put everywhere as an invitation to not just sit in these benches facing forward by yourself, which the architecture of benches in and of itself is just a very individualized experience. But if we even just reshaped the architecture, the color palette of our cities and the way they're built, I really feel like it would shift the way we relate just by where we're being moved, and how we're seated, how we're connected. I would love to be in a round right now on stage, for example. I would love to be able to have all of y'all see each other, not just see your backs, right? So that would make it even more connected as an experience. So stuff like that. The architecture of spaces really inspire our sense of belonging. And so there's again, so many more pieces. Lighting, senses, and there's 1,000 things to talk about in how you actually invite more belonging. So we can talk about that. And then through the lens of spiritual conversation, what I learned yeah, I think that so much of the world is so much more connected to ritual, to spiritual realm. Being Indian, being Japanese, going to Egypt, I mean, everything is ritualized. In America, it's just rugged individualistic culture. You know, it's a cowboy riding off in the sunset, alone on their horse. Like, that's what we've been taught in this country. And so to really, I think that we are experiencing it the most here, and unfortunately America exports our culture all around the world, and so we're exporting this culture of loneliness to the rest of the world. We're exporting this culture of capitalism to the rest of the world, and I can speak about that for a while as well, but I do think that we're very spiritually starved in this country, non-religious but very spiritually starved. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Hans. I am what you would call a recovering cynic. And 5 years ago, I said like, oh,
welcome.
This is some... Thank you. 5 years ago, I have said like, oh, this is some woo-woo-woo. So like, but I wanted to come because I found that what you have is like a very thought out system. Like you're talking about architecture, talking about even furniture design, all of those things. And I wonder like, the dance part is a wonderful entry point. But I wonder like, how do you find entry points for people like me?
Totally. Actually, it's so funny. We're literally in this conversation right now with a former Reddit technologist, CTO, who wants to figure out how to enroll. I'm just following you with my eyes. I'm like, hello. No, just to architect sort of what is the easiest, lowest point of entry. So we spent 2 days in our office, literally a few weeks ago, workshopping different sort of ways to enroll people who are feeling lonely but might not necessarily they're not necessarily ready for dance. So we have all kinds of sort of experiments that we're running right now, or that he's running, that we sort of supported in brainstorming with him, but we're tuning into that through our nonprofit Belong Center right now. We're really kind of taking this moment. Daybreaker, it's its own entity. We have our own community of 800,000 members in 31 cities, right? But it is, you're right, it is a specific group who's willing to dance in the morning, sober, to deep house music. So the variables are pretty high. But I do believe that if we can do that and actually have almost 1 million person community, I really believe that there's a recipe that we can actually architect that can really blanket a much, much larger community of people who be like, all right, I could dip my toe in and see if this feels good. And then, wow, this feels really good. It touches the directions, it touches my neurochemistry, it feels good, it's architected the right way. And it doesn't matter if you're a cynic or not, you'll feel recovering cynic or not, you'll feel connected to the experience. And that's really what we're in the experimentation of right now. So stay tuned. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much. I loved the talk. I'm a huge fan of your book. My name is Leva, sorry.
Hi.
Your book really stands out, and I gift it a lot because it's almost like a whole multi-sensory experience. And it, the dose, the crawl, it really stays in your brain. And I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about what inspired the creative process behind the book and then the whole movement wrapped around it.
First of all, thank you for the question, because I appreciate that. For me, the book wanted to be an experience, right? Typically, when you kind of read books, it's black and white words on a white page, and it's like, this doesn't feel like an experience, and I'm an experience designer, right? And so I wanted, when you flip every page, for it to feel like a new wow moment, a new experience, So the whole book is meant to be that, and I also design it with childlike illustrations, because at the end of the day, we're all walking around with our backpacks with our childhood experiences in them. And it's wild, as I interview people all around the world, they might be in their 80s, still talking about trauma from their 5-year-old selves. So I wanted the book to feel like this reset to your childhood. And so even if they're complex topics presented in simple form, I wanted to feel both childlike and an experience. That's why it's a full color book as well. And so I chose my publisher for that reason, because they let me do a full color book, and I fought for that. And for everyone who hasn't read my book, I'm doing a book signing at 2:45 in just a little bit today at the bookshop. I would love to say hello. But does that answer your question? Or just like it wanted to be an experience, it really wanted to be also a workbook. There's about 25 exercises in the book, so you can actually like write in it and make a mess with it and participate with the book, because so much of what I talk about with belonging is about participation in your community. So if you participated with the book, all of a sudden the book is more meaningful to you as well. So there's a lot of architecture that went into the design of that book. So thank you for the question.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much, Radha. Laura here, fellow twin. So
yay,
big up all the
it's my
twins.
twin right there.
Yes. So first, what speaks to me is your travel and traveling the world. So the more that you can travel and immerse yourself, or just visit areas and villages, and I remember going to West Africa for the first time and really having that experience of community in a way I'd never experienced it before. And then coming home to my empty apartment as a single mom, and in the village they have like the people who cook and the people who do laundry and the people who and it's so connected in a way, and the dancing and the drumming and the so we're all on the journey of personal development, hopefully, and developing the tools to love ourselves. And I find I'm always dealing with myself and the past and the trauma that comes up, that old programming, as I'm rewiring it and reworking it. Do you have any go-to mantras, phrases, things that when you notice that, oh, there I go, going down, what do you say to yourself?
I have a mantra I've been actually chanting morning and night, and it's Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It's a Buddhist chant. And I just chant that for 10 to 15 minutes in the morning and the evenings. And it just it's kind of this beautiful mix of Japan and India coming together. It's a sort of a song about a chant about the Lotus Sutra, and just being grateful for every difficult moment, and just finding the magic of this beautiful life that we're living in. And I have lots of movement practices as well. But that chant, particularly in the last many months, has been extremely life-changing for me. So that's a recent one, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Does anyone know the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo chant? Yeah, beautiful. And so that's been incredible. Yeah, I think when I think about your travels around the world, living in America, the good news is because we have so many cultures together, you can still find the Buddhist community in Austin, Texas, or where do you live? Buffalo, New York, great. I guarantee there's a Buddhist community in Buffalo, New York. I guarantee there's all kinds of different communities for you to tap back into to remember all these spiritual learnings that you've got from your days of travel. But it's just about literally where you place your attention and what are you prioritizing.
Exactly. Thank you.
So, yeah.
This is amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And for being.
Of course. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jule. I come from Germany. I'm a German podcaster. I'm focusing on working culture, and my interest goes into the direction, when you look at our working sort of structure, what do you think, how does it impact the highly dose of remote working in terms of belonging and loneliness? Does it have an impact on our feelings of being bonded, of belonging to the system, to the organization, to the company? It might be a bit apart from your thoughts, but...
No, I think about this a lot, actually. And so, again, remember we talked about the me, the intersection of the me and the we. And there's this beautiful me-ness of like, I get to work from home, I'm freelance, I'm remote, I have my own, I can control my schedule. But then you miss the we of being at the office, right? And so, so I think that we're in this kind of moment again of transition in the workplace, where how do you both feel autonomous and be able to do your laundry while taking a Zoom call, and also have the camaraderie of the workplace. So I really feel like it needs to be a muy conversation where you sort of interview everyone at the office and you ask them, why do you want to work at home? Why do you want to work in the office? And really sort of workshop our sense of belonging and the communitas that one feels in both areas. Does that make
Thank
sense?
you very much. I love the expression. I would love to bring it back to Germany.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
me.
it's not just the me, I mean, it's not just the we. I think that there's a lot of, again, conversation about like everything needs to be we, but we are humans. We are independent individuals. We are egoic. We have our own creative dharma.
It's a highest
and so
form.
it needs to be a beautiful hybrid between the two.
Thank you.
I think we have time for more questions. A couple more questions? Okay, great.
Hi, Radha. I'm Geeta.
Hi, Geeta.
It's nice to meet you finally. I'm the doctor that prescribes dance as medicine.
Yes!
So I'm there with you. Yeah, like feel this, live this. Doing a workshop at 2:30 on dance as medicine.
Yes.
But I think a question I resonate with so much, everything that you do and that you've spoken about today. And I think as a creative and as someone who's in an industry, well, I don't like calling it an industry, as someone who's working to create a healing framework through which the healthcare system can shift its lens, it's a lonely journey.
Totally.
For those of us, who are working towards something that's going to shift these very slow-moving systems. And so, I'm curious for yourself when you were like, I want to write this book Belong, or I want to start Daybreaker. How did you build community for yourself to move your movement forward? Because I find my desire for community and my interest in creating mycelium around me can actually be a little bit of a lone wolf work.
Totally.
It's like a dichotomy.
So 2 pieces of this. I think the first piece is about just how lonely of a journey it is to get dance as part of the ecosystem. Well, fortunately, we're doing a study on this, so I'm excited. I think science and data can support this, what we're doing, what we're all trying to do together. So that's the first piece. The second piece is, I think so often as humans, we wait for an invitation, right? We're always like, oh, I'm waiting to be invited. Who's going to invite me? But the real key and the opportunity is can you be the invitor? Can you have the courage to get up and actually invite and create a community for yourself? And I think where, being a twin is helpful because you have a buddy laughing at your jokes all the time. And giving more courage, whatever, to invite people. But we were always hosting people at our home. We'd have these apartment parties that were notorious, that were known. We do poetry readings, all kinds of fun things, like at our home all the time. We lived in Brooklyn together before she kicked me out. Just kidding. Her boyfriend moved in. And anyway, it's fine. We'll talk about it later. The loneliness I felt of that experience. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. But I think it's really just like the invitation piece we forget about. I think we forget that, we have the agency to just be like, let me go to ChatGPT and make a cool invitation on DALL-E. It'll take 30 seconds, and then promise a cadence of once a month or once a quarter, and you'll become known as the awesome doctor who prescribes dance, and you do these amazing events quarterly, monthly, give it a name. What's that? Right. She's like with doll soup. Maybe you bring a piece of your culture into the experience and you make it something fun. But the point is, it's like we don't have to wait for the invitation. We get to be the invitation. That's what I've always known. Somehow, it's just like, let me just start and see if anyone comes. And the very first Daybreaker, literally, it was the first snowfall in New York City. I have to wrap up. I have to go. First of all, New York City, it was December 10th. We thought no one was coming, and we were like, all right, well, that was a nice experiment. And then 180 people came to the very first one.
Wow.
And that sort of built a movement that we have today. So, yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Of course. Yeah, anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.